When I first started walking home alone from the school bus stop at about 12, I would memorise every registration plate of vans that were parked or driving past me on my way home. I had to walk along a fairly quiet country road, prime, no witness or CCTV territory, and I was terrified that someone was going to kidnap me. I grew up around the time of Madeleine McCann, Shannon Matthews and Sarah Payne's kidnappings, and was born only 5 years after the case of James Bolger. I would often walk along with my keys in between my fingers, holding the key rings so tightly that they would make marks on the inside of my palm. I'd think about what I would try to do to defend myself if something happened. In the winter it was always dark by the time I'd get to my stop, so I'd often run as fast as I could all the way home. From such a young age I was afraid of getting stolen. This is my fight because I don't want my sister to be aware that these are things to be afraid of. It became more real to me when my mum told me that I should only drink from bottles at parties and when I went out. A way that I could hold my thumb over the top, making it much harder for someone to put something in my drink, and that I should never leave my drink unattended. I was unable to relax going to parties and to have fun with my friends for fear someone would drug my drink. This is my fight because I don't want my sister to be aware that these are things to be afraid of. It became too real for me when guys in nightclubs constantly felt like it was perfectly okay for them to touch my hair without asking. Or like the time I did pluck up the courage to ask a guy not to, and he put his cigarette out on my arm and called me a rude bitch. This is my fight because I don't want my sister to be aware that these are things to be afraid of. Being pulled away from my friends in a busy nightclub and them only letting go of me when a male friend asked them to stop. This is my fight because I don't want my sister to be aware that these are things that exist. Or when men on public transport would sit too close. Or the time when I was followed moving carriages on a packed train and he groped my leg. I was terrified he'd get off at the same station and follow me on my quiet walk home. So I got off a stop early and asked my stepmom to pick me up. This is my fight because I don't want my sister to have to be aware that these are things that exist. The relief when I saw her made me burst into tears. She told me that when she was a child, a man stuck their hand up her skirt on her way home from school one day. So as an 8-year-old, she started carrying a razor blade in her school bag. This is my fight because I don't want my sister to be aware that these are things that exist. It felt too real to me when I was told by the car salesman what the gear stick did in the car I was buying. Being shown how to open the bonnet and then being told, "You probably won't need to know that, I'm sure someone else will do that bit for you." As if a woman can't maintain her own car, or know how it works for that matter. This is my fight because I don't want my sister to be aware that these are things that exist. Going on a date, insisting on paying half so you don't feel pushed into doing something you're not comfortable with later, out of an institutionalised guilt that you owe him something if he pays for your dinner. This is my fight because I don't want my sister to be aware that these are things that exist. Being stuck on a date with someone kissing and touching you when you didn't want them to, but being too scared to say no or to try to leave. So just telling yourself to deal with it the rest of the evening and the entire hour train journey home. This is my fight because I don't want my sister to be aware that these are things that exist. Having to be on the phone to a friend, or at least pretending whilst you're somewhere alone when it's late, or when you're getting a taxi home, just so they know where you are, or in case something happens. This is my fight because I don't want my sister to be aware that these are things that exist. Working as a waitress at a wedding and being told, "They've paid enough, so I take it you come with dinner too?" Then watching the same older man try and grope the adolescent sister of the bride, and having to ask one of my male colleagues to step in because I felt like it wasn't safe for me to say something myself. This is my fight because I don't want my sister to be aware that these things exist. Being sat on a plane and a man thinking it was perfectly acceptable to photograph my legs in a skirt. I was too scared to say something because I had to sit next to him for the rest of the flight. This is my fight because I don't want my sister to be aware that these are things that exist. These are just some of the things I have experienced myself. But I am a middle-class white woman and have a privilege that a lot don't. I am not a woman of colour or a member of the LGBT community, only an ally, so I can't speak for them, but I know that sexism, violence and abuse affect people differently. This is my fight because I don't want my sister to be aware that these are things that exist. To me, feminism is about the freedom to choose. Choice over what to wear and what to do with your own body. The right to choose whatever job or specialism you want to pursue without fear of discrimination. Freedom to choose what's right for you, whether that's covering your hair or shaving it all off. To choose if you want children or not. To choose if you do or don't want to follow a religion. To choose if you do or don't want an abortion. Possibly the most important part of feminism for me is the community. A group of people all over the world who are there for you to back you up when you need a hand. A group to hype you up when you're feeling down, to remind you how great you are even when things feel impossible. This is what I'm fighting for, so I fight for my sister so she can grow up feeling safe, empowered and in control. Aurelia, you are one of the bravest, most kind-hearted people I know. You will stand up for anyone who needs you. From the moment you were born, you were not a person to be messed with. You knew your own mind and what you wanted, and no one could sway you. Never, ever lose this. It takes years and years for someone to build up that kind of self-assurance, and I know you will go on to do amazing things because you won't take no for an answer when you know what's right. To all young girls, I fight for you because no one should have to go through what I have. I fight for you because you deserve equality. I fight for you because you deserve to choose what defines your femininity. I fight for you because you deserve not to be defined by your looks or your figure. I fight for you because you have the right to feel safe wherever you are. I fight for you because you have the right to always be in control of your own body and choices. I fight for you because you have the right to opportunities and job prospects without discrimination. I fight for you because you have the right not to be touched when you don't want to be. I fight for you because you have the right to have a family and for it not to impact your career if it's something you decide to do. I fight for you because you are the future, and it's my responsibility to make sure I do all I can.